PEPFAR, saving lives, investing in people. PEPFAR, partnering for an AIDS-free generation.
Over 5,000 new HIV infections occur every week in young women in 14 African countries. Nearly half of those new infections are in South Africa alone. The South African government and PEPFAR continue to partner to address sexual and gender-based violence in order to reduce infections in young women.
People who are or who experience abuse as young kids are more likely to have multiple partners and more likely to engage in unsafe sexual practices. And a lot of that has to do with issues around self-esteem and dignity, because obviously abuse takes that away from a lot of people.
I used to beat up my wife. I beat her up for my own infidelities. I beat her up for my own insecurities. I would say, I want to beat you so hard that you scream, you cry, louder than my mom. I wanted her to love me. But how can you say that someone loves you when they are afraid of you?
Brothers for Life was created to assist with the strategic communication needed in response to the HIV/AIDS epidemic in South Africa. Their provocative engagement offers guidance aimed at reducing the high rate of sexual violence in the country.
The research we've got shows a lot of men saying how when they saw the ad, it touched back into their own childhood.
HIV and AIDS are interrelated. They are married with gender violence. If you are an abusive husband or a man, it is very likely that you're going to transmit, because you use violence to shut this woman's mouth, so she doesn't ask you to account for your whereabouts or your shenanigans, your polygamous life. You use violence to shut her up.
Today we are getting abantu abarapa abantu besifazane. Today we are getting people abaraping ngane. They are destroying the families. They are destroying the communities. And really, as a royal family, we don't support that.
PEPFAR supports Global Girl Media, which gives a voice to young women living with HIV/AIDS.
We launched in South Africa with 20 girls, and then we expanded. We also launched simultaneously in Los Angeles. So the concept is that there is a bureau, a news bureau, of girls in a developing country. At the same time, there's one being developed in America or Europe, and they get to know each other online, and they encourage each other as they're going through the same curriculum. And then they blog and Skype together, and we create Facebook events and Google Hangouts and things for them to know each other.
I was also chosen to be part of the World AIDS Conference that took place in Washington, D.C. in 2012. We covered the World AIDS Conference as the young journalist living with HIV and AIDS.
Mandisa's story is one of the many vehicles used to reclaim women's dignity and rights.
I kicked, screamed, cried, but nobody here. He had all the power to do what he wanted to do. I was only 6 years old.
PEPFAR's priority has always been to reduce the vulnerability of young women and children to infections like HIV and AIDS. USAID and PEPFAR partner with government to ensure medical and legal support for victims within a state-run hospital. Tutuzela, a Xhosa word meaning comfort, offers a caring and supportive environment, turning victims into survivors.
You know, one of the biggest challenges in South Africa is what is called sexual violence. We had to look into how is the system dealing with those that are victimized, victims of rape or even attempted rapes. We had to come up with a mechanism that would be able to deal with that. So that those are the challenges that came, to bring Tutuzela to the fore.
All the preparation here is to get all the evidence together so that at the end of the day, when the case goes to court, all the information and all the evidence is there. And then we've got what we call here the crime kits. Now, the crime kits are the DNA kits that are supplied by the police. As you can see, this one is an adult sexual assault evidence kit, and we also got the children's kits here for the little ones. If a child, for instance, you will ask the child, were you raped? And the child will say, no, I wasn't raped, but he put something into me. And then they'll be given the doll, and the child will show that this is what was put here. And then that's how actually they will write the statements, and the court accepts this.
We have had more than 150 life imprisonments, for instance, during this time. And it is quite an achievement because we used to have very, very flimsy sentences around rape. Certainly from the Tutuzela care centers, we are more geared to being able to service the nation because we have, over the years that we have partnered with PEPFAR, been able to shape the program so that it gives the best possible treatment that it can give to victims of sexual violence.
Out of the 52 Tutuzela care centers that exist across the country, there are more than 30,000 victims every year receiving treatment. In partnership with MacAIDS, PEPFAR supports the South African government in expanding this model to a number of African countries.
PEPFAR, partnering for an AIDS-free generation.